La, da, 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 da. Dear listener, this is part 2 of the Cranium Report with Commander Cranium. Today we're talking about what I just found out at the federal court here in Manhattan. My first RICO lawsuit filed a few weeks ago got in front of a judge, Judge Loretta A. Preska, who just happens to be the chief judge of the Southern District of New York. Whoa, big shot. And she dismissed my lawsuit immediately, which is very suspicious. And you would only do that if the case was out without merit at all. Like, let's say it said, the media keeps beaming things into my head despite the tinfoil wrapped around my cranium. People file garbage lawsuits all the time. But often they don't file garbage lawsuits, but they tell you they are. Example, everyone's heard the lawsuit about the woman who spilled McDonald's coffee all over herself and sued McDonald's. And people go, that's outrageous because she was clumsy? Because the newspapers leave out all the facts. Because if you hear all the facts, then you would side against the corporations. And all news media is owned by the corporations. They always leave out, for instance, the tiny little fact that the coffee was 190 degrees. Now, forget if this woman spilled it on her lap. What if she had drank the coffee? 190 degrees? When the jury heard that, they said, that's a fucking deadly weapon. She's lucky she spilled it on herself and got like third-degree burns. She's lucky because if she had drank that, they might have to do surgery on her to fix the damage. Do you see? And McDonald's said, oh, we make it that hot. 190 degrees? Because we want to stay warm. It's like, okay, now they put on the thing, warning, hot. And yeah, you could say, well, people expect a coffee to be hot. Yes, but 190 degrees, that's overkill. And so in most lawsuits where the news media, owned by the major corporations, and all the right-wingers try to tell you that, people are filing all these bogus lawsuits, it is not easy to sue somebody. It's a complete hoax and a lie. It is very difficult to sue the government. It is very difficult to sue McDonald's. It is very difficult to sue all these people. Even dealing with lawyers is horrendous because most lawyers are criminals. Shakespeare himself said so. And it is very difficult to sue government. You're taking on super Goliaths in their own turf with their own appointed judges. I mean, that's a kangaroo court any way you slice it. And you can't even say our elections are more honest. Our elected judges in New York City, they're all put on the ballot by the political parties. And here in New York City, for instance, you'll see 5 civil judges up for election. And you look under the Republican, so you go into the voting booth, and you're like, all right, there's 5 slots open for judges. Let's see, who's running? Well, we have these 5 Republicans, and we have these 5 Democrats running for the same 5 judicial seats. Oh, wait a minute. The 5 Republicans just happen to have the exact same names as the 5 Democrats. That's right. The 5 judges on the ballot were given both the Republican and Democrat party lines. It's a complete setup. It's complete Tammany Hall fucking super corrupt fucking right-wing bullshit, dictatorial crap. We go in and we literally have a choice between this lawyer or the same exact lawyer for the same position. And he has nobody running against him. Of those 5 judicial seats, each seat has only one person running for it. They call that an election. You're given the choice between Pepsi or Pepsi. And they call that a free and fair election. And both the Republican and Democratic parties are behind it. Everything in your world is corrupt and dirty. And again, I'm stupid for filing lawsuits. You don't file lawsuits against the Nazis. You get guns and you blow their fucking Nazi fucking faces off. Even Thomas Jefferson said it. You can't reason with corrupt government. Even Ben Franklin said it. You can't sue the King of England. You gotta blow his fucking face off. Even George Washington said, you gotta string him up and hang him. Now you have a choice. Do you trust the right-wing corporations or do you trust Thomas Jefferson, Ben Franklin, and George Washington? I mean, it's a real tough call. Ask all the Jews who were fucking tortured and murdered, had all their property stolen in Nazi Germany. Do you fight back with lawsuits or do you fight back with fucking guns? Now, sadly, I'm a pacifist because I should be in the fucking streets going Columbine on these assholes, but I'm too nice a guy. So, as I was saying, now my lawsuit, my first RICO lawsuit against the news media is impressive. It's so comprehensive. I'm not just hitting them for lying about politicians, lying to us before every election. And remember, all of this is documented every day in the news media's own websites. It's the perfect case. I'm not even saying anything that's a stretch. We can prove it every single day because every single day they print new lies. And these aren't mistakes. These are provable lies. And I'm going after the entertainment reporters and the entertainment media because I can prove they lie because they got kickbacks. All of this I said I can prove in a trial, and I am willing to meet the highest standards you can set. And in my thing I said I'm just giving you a couple examples because they want your complaints to be kind of simple and very short and sweet. You don't have to prove all your points in the complaint. If the judge finds your complaint doesn't seem fully baked, the judge will ask you to amend it. Say, you don't fully make out your case about how the entertainment reporters violated RICO. Now, I do in my lawsuit. Even Bruce Springsteen busted Ticketmaster and the media in Jersey. Well, he didn't quite go after the media. But they're part of the whole reason why Ticketmaster scalps tickets and things like that. All the dirty shenanigans they do in the entertainment industry via entertainment media. And I make a case about that. Now, and it says right there in my complaint, it says I'm not listing 1% of the evidence because I can't make this a 50,000-page complaint. These are all things I'll prove. I said I can prove all this in a conference. We don't even have to bring in a jury. We can do this in a conference. The judge and their lawyers and me in a conference room with a stenographer or whatever they use. And I will blow away every single thing they say. And I will prove we can sit there for hours. We can sit there for tens of hours. We can sit there for months. I'll prove more examples of racketeering and RICO violations than anyone could ever possibly handle. Remember, we're talking about tens of thousands a day, every day since the creation of corporate media. Obviously, there's no way I can even present 1% of the evidence. I don't need to. I only need to show a handful of crimes. You don't need to show millions of crimes by the Gaudis. You need to show one crime. For instance, one murder with a couple guys who are organized in committing it. That's it. Done. And I said that. I can prove as many as you want. And my lawsuit is very comprehensive. I'm not just hitting, even standing. It's like, why do I, Christopher Brodeur, get to sue them? Well, because they've destroyed my life and my career, and I can prove it point by point. I can prove, for instance, that I was blacklisted from the Village Voice and Time Out New York and The Onion, etc., because I exposed their pay-to-play scandals. No other musician would because they were afraid, you can't stand up to Goliaths. I fight Goliaths. I can prove all the articles written about me are filled with lies. I can prove that. I can prove they're not mistakes. I can prove that they refuse to fact check. I can prove that all the articles have no opposing viewpoints. Now, why would all the articles have no opposing viewpoint if the intent wasn't to deceive the reader? It's journalism 101. You put opposing viewpoints. Somebody said this guy molested his daughter. Well, let's get the alleged criminal's side of the story. They would have to explain, well, we didn't think we needed to put any opposing viewpoints because we thought politicians always tell the truth. Yeah, that's reasonable. But I said all along, let's pray I don't get a Bush-appointed judge. So this judge, Loretta A. Prescott, chief judge of the Southern District, heavy guns. She writes I'm holding it here in my hand. It is a 4-page order of dismissal. And in it, I don't think she makes one valid point. And remember, I'm very fair. When I'm wrong on something, I can admit it. I have no problem saying, I didn't know that. For instance, it could say the RICO statute of limitations in the lawsuit I filed today. I'm going back to 94. They could say, oh, no, they amended the law, and you didn't know that. They amended the RICO statute in 2007, and now the statute of limitations is only 10 years. So anything before 2001, you can't sue for. And I would say, fuck. And I would then criticize the legislature and not the judicial branch. This judge makes not one. I didn't see one point in here that was valid. Not one. Remember, my last federal lawsuit that was tossed was in the 90s against Rudy Giuliani. And it turned out the judge made all kinds of bizarre decisions. You can look it up. Look up my lawsuit and look at my complaints and then look at the judge's responses and the government's responses. And the judge doesn't, he just makes up facts, he just ignores facts, and he just makes bizarre decisions upon bizarre decisions and then throws it all out. I then found out that he maybe should have recused himself from handling a lawsuit against Rudy Giuliani Because he's an ex-law partner of Rudy Giuliani's. That's your government in a nutshell. Everyone's scratching each other's back. It's the old boys club against the rest of us. Are you going to just sit there and fucking take it? Well, Thomas Jefferson said you will. Let's see if I'm wrong, and let's see if Tom's wrong. I don't think any of you are going to fight back. I think the Nazis could march in today, and you'd do exactly what the Jews did back then. All human beings just lay down. At the time, I might have tried to appeal that thing, but I didn't know enough about the law and didn't have any time, and they were arresting me over and over and over again, blah, 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 blah. Smearing me in the newspapers so I couldn't find places to live, smearing me in the newspapers to hurt my ability to get jobs and work, and on and on and on. I'm not joking. There's not one thing in here. And also in the judge's order, she cites a couple of my complaints. Now remember, I'm making dozens of separate different complaints, all based on RICO violations by the corporate media, the mayor's office, and even Giuliani. And I'm going against like 15 news organizations here. And my complaint is clear about, I've got a lot more than this, but here are just a couple examples. So what she does now in her order, she cites just a couple. And she doesn't even disprove those. Example. She writes here, plaintiff's complaint is a diatribe against media outlets, journalists, editors, Mayor Bloomberg, former Mayor Giuliani, members of Bloomberg staff. Plaintiff alleges illegal and criminal behavior on the part of the defendants. According to plaintiff, the corporate media, who kill more people in one day than all the mob families combined did in 200 years, lied endlessly about the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan without fact-checking any of it. ... All right, that's just one example of tens of thousands. He believes that it's an open secret that media controls the government. That's maybe not even an open secret. That's just open, right? You've seen it in every election in your life. Watch the political coverage of any election. Do they list the differences between McCain's solutions and Obama's? No. It's all about fundraising. It's all about polls. It's all about fundraising and polls. And every election is the lesser of two evils. That's because the corporations can't say we don't have any say in who gets elected. Really? Let's look at all your coverage and how you refuse to cover any of the progressive candidates. And explain that one. You're just saying voters didn't want any progressives. They just wanted candidates who support the corporate agenda, whether allegedly a Democrat or allegedly a Republican. She quotes the little thing here, the media and the reporters named clearly lied to me and the rest of society. I can prove that these lies were completely responsible for endless problems, from murder and crime to theft of billions of tax dollars, to our roads filled with 900,000 man-made potholes, the intentional lack of housing that is affordable, because that kind of helps the developers, blah, blah, blah. Then she says here, plaintiff also alleges he was illegally banned from media coverage and televised debates when he was on the 2005 Democratic ballot because he was the only candidate talking about real reforms. That's not open to debate. You can go back and look at everybody's platforms. Plaintiff believes that the media blocked him from all debates because he won every debate he had been allowed in the past. Totally true. We can prove that. And the New York Times even did a piece about how I fucking stole one of the major debates. It's right there in their own article, but then they put some lies in it to neutralize me. He states that he appeared on a television program, America's Got Talent, where they cheated everything and cannot legally call any of that fakery reality TV. It's true. All the reality shows are fake. Everybody who works on them will tell you that. So why are they allowed to call it reality television? Isn't that deceptive? Now, again, you can't legally deceive your customers for monetary gain. That's fraud. It's a felony. Okay? So that's part of the basis of my complaint. I'm saying I would have to prove they deceived their customers. 1, I would have to prove that they got monetary gain from the deception of their customers. 2, and I would then have to show damages. 3, that's it. So she continues to quote me. Your plaintiff also alleges he has busted ABC Radio dozens of times for cheating its listeners to protect flat-out criminal acts of Mayor Giuliani Bloomberg. Okay. Now she writes discussion. She cites the RICO statute. Says it's got has 2 pleading burdens. First, he must allege that the defendant has violated the substantive RICO statute, commonly known as criminal RICO. In doing so, he must allege the existence of 7 constituent elements. 1, that the defendant, who they are. 2, through the commission of 2 or more acts, done. 3, constituting a pattern, easy. 4, of racketeering activity, easy. 5, directly or indirectly invests in or maintains an interest and participates in, no problem. 6, an enterprise, no problem. 7, the activities of which affect interstate or foreign commerce, done. Oh, she's going to argue that New York Times never crosses a border. and that the internet doesn't cross borders. Is that that's the only thing she could possibly try and cheat right there? Is to say it doesn't affect interstate or foreign commerce. Oh, really? The war in Iraq didn't affect interstate or foreign commerce? Are you kidding me? You're telling me the international media and New York City is the world capital of it? ABC, NBC, CBS, all of them. None of them have cross borders of states or the fucking government. I mean, or the United States borders. That's retarded right there. So which one did I miss? Let's see what she says. Plaintiff must allege adequately defendant's violation of Section 1962 before turning to the second burden, i.e. invoking RICO's civil remedies of treble damages, attorney's fees, and costs. To satisfy this latter burden, plaintiff must allege that he was injured in his business or property by reason of a violation of Section 62. It's all over my complaint, which is about 4 or 5 pages. And if there was anything missing in there, she would ask me to amend it and to add to it. You see? But she didn't do that. And this whole thing is bogus. Now here's some of her opinion. Plaintiff has failed to allege facts that support his RICO claims. All right, that's empty sentence. Plaintiff's allegations simply do not support any claims that any of the defendants through the commission or two or more acts constitute a pattern of racketeering activity invested in, maintained in, interested in, or participated in an enterprise whose activities affect interstate or foreign commerce, and that he was injured because of it. Therefore, to the extent plaintiff raises RICO claims, such claims are dismissed. Now, did you see what she did there? She said, this man has charged Hitler with killing Jews. Well, Hitler didn't kill any Jews. That's the legal argument here. They said Hitler murdered a whole bunch of Jews, stole their property, etc., etc. Well, he didn't. That's not a fucking legal argument. She doesn't disprove a single thing I said. I'll read it to you again. Plaintiff's allegations simply... Well, first argument is plaintiff has failed to allege facts that support his RICO claims. Okay, it's a little vague. I was specific, she was vague. Plaintiff's allegations simply do not support any claims that any of the defendants through the commission of two or more acts constituting a pattern of racketeering activity invested in, maintained an interest in, or participated in an enterprise whose activities affected interstate or foreign commerce, and that he was injured because of it. Therefore, to the extent plaintiff raises RICO claims, such claims are dismissed. She made no legal argument anywhere in there. She just said it didn't happen. That's her argument. Didn't happen. And then there's one other part here. Private prosecution. To the extent plaintiff raises claims in an effort to have defendants and others criminally prosecuted, such claims must also be dismissed. I've also included the Attorney General's stuff. I said, these guys are not doing their job. There's no equal protection. They enforce the laws politically. The Attorney General doesn't go after anyone who breaks the law. He doesn't go after anyone who breaks the law in the most serious ways. He doesn't go on severity. He goes on political process. He's not going to go after a billionaire mayor because that billionaire mayor can ruin his career. Now, the Attorney General of America can't go after Bloomberg because Bloomberg's a billionaire who will spend a shitload of money to make sure Obama loses the next election, and then the Attorney General, Eric Holder, sleazebag, is out of a job. Haha, done. There's a slight conflict of interest right there. She says private citizens have no standing to force prosecutions. I agree with that, but that doesn't have anything to do with what my argument was. A private citizen lacks a judicially cognizable interest in the prosecution or non-prosecution. They're saying the police and stuff don't have to enforce the laws if they don't fucking feel like it, which is a stretch too. And I'd have to look this into because I mean, obviously the judge is already caught lying. The judge is already busted lying. I mean, end of debate here. But let's see. Holding that prisoners lacked she's quoting a couple case law examples. 1981, Leak versus Timmerman. It says here, holding that prisoners lacked a judicially cognizable interest to compel the issuance of warrants for the arrest of prison guards. Now, I don't know about that. Did they file under equal protection? Or we don't know. I'd have to look it up. But we know it doesn't matter because we have a judge here who doesn't give a shit about law. Thus, to the extent plaintiff raises claims in an effort to have defendants and others criminally prosecuted, such claims are dismissed. Well, she didn't make a very good argument there, okay? I made a point that they were violating equal protection, right? Like in New York City, when they arrest black people for smoking pot and not white people for smoking pot, that is a violation of federal law. They'd say, oh, it's just coincidence. We just grabbed all the blacks. No, it isn't. It's political consideration, you fucking scumbags, right? They say, oh, blacks use coke, but we're not going to go and frisk all the guys on Wall Street who all have coke on them because they're rich and powerful white people who might fight back. And they have friends, very connected friends in high places where all these little black people don't. That's what they used to do. That's why they created equal protection, because the government would enforce laws against blacks but not against whites. The whole point of equal protection, fucking lying cunt. So now, if I'm showing that the prosecution of people and the enforcement of laws is not equal, then they violated the 14th Amendment, you stupid cunt. And it says that in my complaint. She doesn't rebut it. You'll notice she doesn't explain why it doesn't meet equal protection. She just tried to cheat it. Plaintiff's possible state law claims, because also, it doesn't say this is my thing, I don't think, but if the RICO thing completely fails and I get a sleazy judge, and I fail in every way, I'm going to go after them in state courts for fraud. Anyone can go after them also in your own state for fraud. To the extent that plaintiff raises state law claims under the court's supplemental jurisdiction, such claims are dismissed. Under 28 U.S.C., a district court may decline to exercise supplemental jurisdiction over state law claims when it has dismissed all claims over which it has original jurisdiction. I think she's saying, I now have the power to make sure this motherfucker can't even try and go after this fucking corporate media in state courts, because none of plaintiff's claims discussed above can survive dismissal, and because such claims appear to be the only ones over which the court has original jurisdiction. The court declines to exercise supplemental jurisdiction over whatever state law claims plaintiff attempts to raise in his complaint. Directing dismissal of Martinez v. Simonetti, 2000. We don't know. We do know that I don't think it mentions that in my lawsuit. So the fact that she put that in there sounds like she's up to some really dirty shit. Do you understand? It's like she's saying, I'm going to make sure this guy can't go after the fucking media in any way. Now remember, one of my biggest fears was not only getting a shitty judge, but like, the CIA is all over the media. That's not a secret. Even the fucking CIA heads have admitted it, okay? So they might try to squash my lawsuit just based on a national security issue. The CIA, they're very powerful. And they can trump federal law almost any time they want. And this judge seems to have gone out of her way to make sure, I'm going to make sure this guy can't go after the media anyway. Because remember, if we clean up the media, the CIA is out of business. If we clean up the media, corrupt government is out of business. That's why this is probably the boldest lawsuit in human history. Conclusion. The clerk of court is directed to assign this matter to my docket. Plaintiff's complaint, filed in forum pauperis, is dismissed pursuant to his application for the court to request counsel is denied, blah. The court certifies that any appeal from this order would not be taken in good faith. What? Why can't I appeal it? Millions of judges have been appealed on the federal appeals. Every day a federal judge makes a decision that's false and wrong, and they're appealed and they lose. The appellate court finds against them, the Supreme Court finds against them. This judge is trying to make sure she stops that. Look, that any appeal from this order would not be taken in good faith, and therefore in form proper status is denied for the purpose of an appeal. She's trying to beat me to the punch to say, if you try and appeal my decision, you little fucking civil libertarian, well, I'm going to make sure, one, you, even though you're poor, you don't get that right. So that'll fuck you up. You're going to have to fucking borrow $500 to file the appeal or something. So fuck you. Now, when I read this order, my head spun. I said, we've got a judge here. Oh, shit. Is this thing still recording? What the fuck? GarageBand blows. I saw that. I said, this is really suspicious. This doesn't pass any smell test, so I just came home and Googled her. Thank God for the magic of the internet. And guess what? Loretta Preska. Remember, I told everyone this at the beginning. I said, if I get a fucking Bush-appointed judge, I could be fucking out of luck instantly. She was appointed by George Herbert Walker Bush, ex-CIA head. Probably another wacky coincidence. And if that's not enough, right there, that's corrupt. It's corrupt. She was appointed by the former head of the CIA, and the CIA runs a lot of the media. Totally dirty conflicts of interest. But wait, there's more. It says that she was on the short list of George W. Bush a few years ago to be appointed to the Supreme Court. But I guess Samuel Alito sucked corporate dick even harder. Game over. Now I'm going to have to go through all the trouble appealing. I don't know how easy it is to appeal. But I got the chief judge of the Southern District saying, you better not fucking try to appeal my decision. Even though her decision defeats itself, she doesn't even argue against any of my legal points. It's totally, totally dirty. But again, how do you stop the Nazis? You can't do it with legal torts. So that's all we have for you right now today, dear listener. I'll keep you abreast of how this goes in the other two RICO lawsuits. But remember, there's only one way to fight back with Nazis, and it's not with lawsuits. These Nazis literally murdered shitloads of people. They've murdered millions of people, these judges, these reporters, these politicians. They have destroyed your life. They have bankrupted your nation. They have done all this fucking incredibly illegal shit. But they run everything. The rich run everything. Be very scared. This is the Cranium Report.